Hi and welcome to Slick Willy Flying. Today we're celebrating 500 subscribers, and to celebrate we're going to make the Workhorse. This is a very simple fly. When I started thinking about 500 flies, I started thinking about it has to fit all the Slick Willy criteria. So this is, I'll show you. This is one marabou feather, and I'm using brown. And I used to make this with craft fur, but instead now I'm using fin raccoon, also in a brown, like a reddish brown. And I'm using a tiny bit of Sparckle brush, gold. And gonna have a little bit of Beadchain eyes, medium, silver. And I'm gonna have probably one strand of Freshwater Mirage Opal. Of course, I have to have a cocktail. We are celebrating. And for thread, I'm going to use this 140 denier orange ultra. For the hook, I'm using, it's a long shank Mustad 34011, and I'm using it in a size 4. This is also a size 4. I think it's a really, it's a good size. I like the long shank because it lets me put a little bit of material on it. And I'm going to put a wee guard. So I say thanks again. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing. Don't forget Slick Willy's on Instagram. And hope you have a cocktail. Let's change the camera angle and let's tie a fly. Alright, so let's tie a fly. 140 denier, just like we said. And I'm using this orange, which I think looks pretty cool. I have to thank everyone again. 500 subscribers, it's so cool. I'm having just so much fun doing this, and hope that you guys are having fun watching them. So here's my bead chain. I'm going to go ahead and use wire cutters to cut my bead chain. I had to do some serious thinking and give this fly a name. A lot of the stuff that I tie didn't really have names for it. It just kind of was stuff that we tied, and now that I'm making videos we have to get names for all these flies. So this fly, I think the name Workhorse fits it very well, because this is a all around inshore freshwater saltwater whatever. This fly is just one of those kind of flies that'll just catch fish, largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, pretty much anything. And definitely redfish and sea trout, snook, snappers, jacks, all that kind of good stuff. So all I did here was I left myself enough room to make a head and to also put in a weed guard, because I am going to use this as saltwater. So for this application I'm using a stainless hook, because like I said, for me this is saltwater. This fly can be tied in any color combo you like. Black and purple, chartreuse, olives. I just happen to be going with the browns today because I just think the browns look great, but sky's the limit. Your imagination. That's the only thing limiting you. So here's my brown marabou. And all I did was I clipped the center. If I find the stem here, there's the stem, and I just plucked off the end of the stem, which gives it a little bit more of a natural look to it. So I'm just going to give this a couple of loose wraps, and now I can draw if I think it's too long, which I actually don't, but I could have just pulled in that tail to where I wanted it. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it tight, and I'm going to use it to make a little bit of fill in the body a little, just like that. I'm going to give this a little trim, and then I'll clean it up. A lot of times you'll see me put super glue on the bead chain, And I didn't do the super glue on the Beadchain today because I know that I'm going to use a UV resin. So I'm going to get one piece of Flashabou. I'm going to fold it in half. And I'm going to go ahead and put it on my thread about as even as I can. And I'm going to go ahead and put it on top. And now I'm going to make sure that I have 2 strands on either side, and I'm going to go ahead and lock that in. Just like that. Beautiful. Now I'm going to trim this individually so they're not the exact same length, and I want them about the length of the Marabou. Perfect. I don't really need a lot of flash because I am going to use that Sparckle brush, but I like to give it a little bit of something in the tail. Beautiful. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of wraps, maybe a wrap and a half of this Sparckle brush. Not a lot. So there's 1 and there's 2. That's plenty for now. I actually didn't draw that back. Back up. Because when I use any kind of this kind of material, I always draw back the fibers. And in my rush, I didn't do that. Just goes a lot better when you draw back the fibers. Just like that. Now I can just capture that. I'm going to bring in my wire cutters again, and I'm just going to trim that up. Perfect. And then you could take a little needle, or in my case a little lice brush, and just pick out anything that might be trapped. Make sure they're going the right way. Beautiful. So now I'm going to get a little bit of fin raccoon. I am actually going to put a little tiny bit on the bottom. I don't put very much at all on the bottom because I want this fly to ride hook side up, and the less material you have on the bottom, the better. This is such an easy fly to tie, it's amazing. So the length on my fin raccoon is I want it about half as long as the Marabou. You know, another thing you can easily do with this fly, you can easily put in some rubber legs. So a couple of loose wraps. Now I'm just going to make sure that I distribute a little here. And we lock that in. Now we turn the fly over. And this time I'm going to use a little healthier clump. Still not going to use a lot, but a better clump. Remember, if you don't use enough, you can always add. It's more of a pain to have to take away. And again, it's about the same length that we were just looking at. So I'm going to get my length, and I'm going to trim this up. Now I'm going to go ahead and attach this in about the same location, just like that. Couple of loose wraps, making sure I like where it is. Gonna distribute a little. You can use a needle to get it around the hook, which helps you make sure that you got it the way you want it. And you just lock that in. Perfect. Love it. That came out great. So now I'm going to go ahead and put on my brush again, reattaching the Sparckle brush. Get my thread out of the way. Now you can use the rotary function, or you can just do it the old-fashioned way like I was doing. Here, I'll do the rotary function this time just to show you how easy this is. Just remember, you always want to draw back the fibers. Now, I'm not doing super tight wraps. I'm just want to get coverage up to the Beadchain eyes, and I don't want to use too much Sparckle. And I think that that right there is enough. So I'm going to bring my thread under and capture that. And once I feel like I've got that good, both sides of that Sparckle brush, I'll come in here and I'll just trim that off. Just like that. And I'll actually save this little piece. I can use this in another fly. So now it's a whip finish. I'm trying to get all the fibers back as much as possible. Anything that's not back we'll trim away before we use the UV resin. Get a little bit of the orange in front so that it gives it that color. The whole reason I use this orange thread is for when I do the UV resin. And this fly, ooh, I almost made a mistake. Gotta put a weed guard on. Almost cut my thread off too early. Wouldn't have mattered, I could easily reattach the thread. I'm just going to clean up some of these fibers that are going the wrong way. Man, that looks great. What a cool looking fly. Weed guard, gotta get me a piece of hard mono. Could have had that ready, but I didn't. And I used my weed guard to, my wire cutters to cut it, because the hard mono is really hard. In this earlier fly, I put in a double. Don't know if you can see that very well, but there's a double there. On this one, I'm going to go back to my traditional single. So all I did was I crimped the hard mono with my flat plier, and I gave it a little bend up. So now that gives me a perfect little spot where I can set the mono. I'm going to thread just a little farther back, and now I can easily capture that hard mono right where I want it, just like that. Perfect. That came out great. I'm going to give it one wrap behind, just to keep it right where I want it. So now it's a whip finish, and this fly is done. See, this fly really fits the Slick Willy criteria. This fly is going to get a ton of bites, very few materials, and super simple to tie. Didn't take long at all to tie. We'll trim this weed guard up in a minute. And it's just a great fly. I mean, that Workhorse name really fits it. So now I'm just gonna get a little tiny bit of UV resin. I'm actually gonna use my UV lamp first, because a lot of times this UV lamp will show me some wild fibers. Just want to clean that up just a little bit, so when we do the resin it'll look nice. So now it's just gravity. Letting gravity do its thing. Making sure that this opening, that I didn't accidentally put a little resin in there. And once I'm happy with that, just zap it. Man, that looks great. What an awesome little fly. And again, all my flies that I use resin with, I put them in my windowsill and I just let them cure. You know, for me, I'm not using this fly tomorrow. I'm not in any rush. So this is going to go in my Florida box. And the next time I go down to Florida, this fly and the one I made earlier are definitely going to come. And most likely my target species for this fly is going to be redfish, but I have no problem throwing this at a bonefish or snook, sea trout, jacks, snappers, you name it. This is a great fly. All right, so there it is, 500 subscriber fly, the Workhorse. This is a great fly. Like I was saying earlier, go on to Instagram, find the picture of this fly, and that's where I'm going to have the rules, the contest rules, and some lucky winner is going to get this fly. I cannot tell you how thrilled I am that we got to 500 subscribers. I'm just having a great time. You know, for me, it's Sweden, it's winter, it's cold. I'm not fly fishing this time of year. So for me, this is great. This is perfect. Sit here, make a few flies, share with my YouTube friends, and having a cocktail and just having a great time. Thank you so much. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Don't forget to check me out on Instagram and try and win this fly. See you on the next video.